Welcome to this edition of the Professional Patient Podcast. I'm your host, Michael A. Weiss, and this is going to be a mailbag episode. It's a special episode where I address many of the questions that have been coming in over the past 6 months or so, but just bear with me. I'm not a doctor. I'm really just a patient expert, so every answer I give is only based on my experience, and if anyone is seeking advice, they should look to a medical professional. My information is anecdotal, so please take that into consideration, and thank you for listening. Thanks. The short answer is you have to start looking at life day by day, and you can't look at other people's lives and compare them to yours, because everybody's lives is different. And I think it's also important to note that, as life goes on, everybody gets hit with problems, whether it's their problem, their spouse's problem, and unfortunately their child's problem, and it causes them to live life differently. When you get diagnosed with a chronic illness, you kind of get all this information up front. So in a strange way, you're a little bit lucky because you could plan for it, because it does create a tremendous amount of uncertainty. But try to look at it that way. Now, secondly, it's hard to make long-range plans when you know you have a chronic illness. But thanks to a lot of federal legislation, like the Americans with Disabilities Act, a lot of dreams you had, you could still pursue, albeit a little bit differently, but you could still become what you want to become. Because I think the government and the world acknowledges that people have disabilities. So they try to make different accommodations so that you could still do what you want to do. You just have to do it differently. So you could always look at things from that perspective. What I always try to tell people is that while we all envision the beautiful house, the growing family, the white picket fence, the playful dog, that's what life looks like in the movies. But real life is about change. It's about adapting to change. And the people who adapt to change the best are the happiest. So with life being about change, how you adapt to change will really determine how happy you'll be. And I'm talking about your attitude, your outlook, your perspective. All of those things determine your happiness. So you have to sort of embrace change and just be excited about what may be coming around the corner. It may not be exactly what you planned because you don't have the privilege anymore of planning. You always have to worry about that disaster happening, of a flare-up occurring or a hospitalization happening. But in a strange way, it makes life a little bit exciting. Now, in terms of my life, I fantasized about being a big movie producer and an entertainment attorney and, living with all the trappings that comes with that. But my Crohn's disease got more and more active, and with more surgeries and more hospitalizations, I had to adjust my dream. Yeah, I did move out to LA, and I did get to pursue my dream a little bit, but I had to change my calling. And sometimes you don't do that. It's done for you. And in my case, it happened because, I wrote this book in 2001 called Confessions of a Professional Hospital Patient, which is a funny book about my experiences about living with a chronic illness. Now it's 2009, and President Barack Obama is talking about healthcare reform, and I noticed that my book is experiencing a resurgence in sales. And I always thought that the web would be a very important tool to help people and to share experiences, particularly people with chronic illnesses. So I thought, wow, someone's speaking to me, because I can't work in the entertainment industry the way I wanted to because of my illness. So then I turned all my efforts at trying to help people with videos like this, and hopefully I'll get an opportunity to write another book. So while one door closes, another one opens. So when you're talking about rewriting a script, I don't think you have to rewrite it. I think you just have to be ready to adjust to what comes down the pike, what's thrown at you. I think a lot of people, and I say this with all due respect to everyone, I think we're all a little arrogant when we sit and try to write out plans for life, because tragedies happen, great things happen that completely change your... it goes both ways. So try to look at it that you were chosen, for whatever reason you were chosen to have this illness, and go with it. Because like in my particular case, Let's put it this way. If I would have gone to Hollywood and won an Oscar and got millions of dollars, it never, ever, ever could possibly replace the feeling I get when I get an email from someone who tells me they read my book and it changed their life. They live a happier life with chronic illness because I've helped them. Just that email is worth more than an Oscar or money to me. So look at that. I couldn't have possibly rewritten that script because I wouldn't have believed it myself. So in a more pointed answer to the question, let's face it, the most interesting movie scripts have twists, turns, uncertainties, heroes. Well, now that you have a chronic illness, I think you've added a lot of uncertainty, a lot of chaos into your life, and you have to have tremendous fortitude to get through it. So in a strange way, your script is being rewritten for you, and your life is going to be that much more interesting. And don't look back. It's pointless. Just look forward and do the best you can. And I guess my advice is to not rewrite a script. We all tend to want to be sort of like anal retentive that way. Everyone goes to a career counselor. I mean, these are things you should do. But you always got to keep in mind, and I guess I didn't know this when I was 16. I know it when I'm 48. That's just the way life is. You know how they say the youth is wasted on the young? Life, it's hard to write a life script. That only happens in the movies. So don't focus on rewriting your life script. Just focus on adapting to change, being happy, having the best outlook as possible, and just going with it. And be open to all sorts of opportunities. And don't feel bad about what you can't do. Focus on what you can do.